Behind me is Tel Aviv, the commercial capital of Israel, and for the past 2 weeks the skyline of this city has looked quite a lot like this. It's been the central focus of a series of ballistic missile and drone attacks launched from over 1,000 miles away in Iran. They're calling this conflict the 12-day war. For now, a delicate ceasefire is holding, but the roots of the conflict are so deeply ingrained that it really wouldn't take much to rekindle open warfare once again. This war didn't come from nowhere. For much of the last 4 decades, Iran and Israel have been sworn enemies of one another, but most of the fighting has been done in the shadows and by proxies. Iran has long backed proxy groups like Hezbollah, Hamas and the Houthis who have been fighting Israel for decades. On the 13th of June, that shadow war became a real one. Iran has long sworn to destroy Israel, and Israel considers the threat of Iran gaining a nuclear bomb to be existential. But why do these two countries hold each other in such deep contempt? That's the question I want to answer today. Welcome to History Counts. If you enjoy videos that look at the history behind what's in the headlines, then please do remember to subscribe. The Middle East is probably the most complicated region in the world, and Israel's position in it is probably the most complicated element. That means that finding a place to start can be tricky, but today we're going to start in 1979 with the Iranian Revolution. Before that revolution, Iran was ruled by the Shahs. They were monarchs installed in a coup by MI6 and the CIA. They ran a pretty authoritarian regime, but it was also quite liberal, and through the 50s, 60s and 70s they developed friendly relations with Israel. Iran supplied Israel with oil, the two countries opened embassies with one another and even cooperated on military and security matters. But then the Shah was overthrown, and in 1979 Ayatollah Khomeini came to power in Iran. He pivoted the country dramatically away from the West and formed a strict Shiite Islamic Republic. Iran began to refer to America as the Great Satan and Israel as the Little Satan, and the country was committed to the destruction of both. Over the following decades, enmity between the two countries continued to grow, and Iran began to back proxies all over the Middle East who were committed to fighting Israel. That included the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. Beyond those groups, the thing that worried Israel the most was Iran's nuclear program. The country was committed to developing a nuclear bomb which they saw as key for their own defense. For decades, both the US and Israel have sought to set back the Iranian nuclear program because they both see it as an existential threat. In 2020, we saw perhaps the most brazen Israeli attack on Iran when a remote-controlled machine gun was used to kill the top nuclear scientist in Iran. The October 7th attacks by Hamas in 2023 on Israel upped tensions once again. Iran denied involvement in the attack, but the Israelis didn't really buy it. Israel reeled from what happened on October 7th, but quickly regrouped itself and went on the attack. In the 20 months since, Israel has decimated many of Iran's proxies, perhaps most notably Hamas in Gaza, where the humanitarian situation remains completely dire, but also Hezbollah in Lebanon when Israel launched attacks against the country in 2024. Much of Hezbollah's leadership was wiped out by airstrikes and by assassinations in those months. The Houthis in Yemen were also the subject to airstrikes from the US and the UK when they started firing missiles at ships in the Red Sea and threatening to interrupt global trade. But despite those attacks, the Houthis still remain something of a force. Finally, on the 13th of June this year, Israel took action against Iran itself, launching airstrikes across the country and claiming to kill much of the Iranian military and political leadership. Iran responded with missile strikes the very same day, and that tit for tat continued for 12 days. The issue eventually came to a head when the Americans under Donald Trump decided to get involved. Using B-2 stealth bombers flown all the way from America, the US dropped the biggest conventional bomb ever used in war on the Iranian nuclear facility at Fordow in an attempt to totally destroy it. Donald Trump claims victory. He says that his strikes have wiped out Iran's nuclear capabilities. But there remains huge question marks over how effective those attacks actually were, how long Iran's nuclear program will actually be set back for, and whether the Iranians still have, somewhere hidden in the country, 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. Amid that backdrop of uncertainty, the ceasefire here is tentative and plans for a lasting peace seem a long way away yet. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe and leave your feedback below. Each week I try to make a video that looks beyond the headlines that are in the news and at the history that got us to the point we are at today.